It was past midnight in the quiet halls of Orion Interstellar Academy. The lights were dim, the corridors empty, and the sound of distant machines hummed softly through the walls. Inside room 2117B, Ethan Cole sat at his desk staring at a glowing datapad. His eyes were heavy, but sleep refused to come. The navigation exam was only 2 days away, and the endless star mapping equations spun in his mind like broken satellites. Ethan ran a hand through his messy brown hair and sighed. "I can't do this," he whispered. He leaned back in his chair and looked across the room at his roommate's side. Perfectly clean, organized, and quiet. His roommate, Tivaran of Draxilon, was a being of calm precision. 4 eyes, 2 arms, and 2 smaller tentacle-like appendages that moved with eerie grace. Tivaran didn't speak much. He didn't need to. Everything about him said control and discipline. Ethan often wondered why the Academy had paired him, a stressed, clumsy human, with a Draxilon, a species known for their logic and emotionless reasoning. Still, it worked. Tivaran never complained, and Ethan respected his quiet ways. Until that night. It began with a faint click. The door to their dorm room slid open with a slow hiss. Ethan frowned. "Tivaran?" he whispered, turning his chair toward the sound. No answer. Then, in the dim blue light, a tall shadow entered, slim, with glimmering scales and eyes that reflected the moonlight from the window. Ethan froze. The shadow crept closer, and before Ethan could speak, a deep, soft voice said, "I can help you with it, human." Ethan yelped and fell out of his chair. His datapad clattered to the floor, displaying a spinning holographic star chart. "Tivaran? What the hell are you doing in my room?" Tivaran tilted his head. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, each glowing faintly purple. "Correction, our room. And you appeared to be struggling." Ethan scrambled up, heart pounding. "You broke in." "The door was locked." "I bypassed it," Tivaran said simply, as if it was the most normal thing in the galaxy. "I observed you have not slept in 3 cycles. You are preparing for the navigation simulation. I can help you." Ethan blinked. "You broke into my room to help me study?" Tivaran raised one long arm, revealing a small glowing cube in his hand. The Academy's restricted holographic exam module. Ethan's eyes went wide. "That's from the lab. That's restricted. If they find out you took it, we'll both be expelled." Tivaran's tone was calm, logical. "I did not take it. I borrowed it temporarily." "That's called stealing, Tivaran," Ethan hissed, rushing over and snatching a blanket to throw over the cube's light. "Do you have any idea how much trouble we could be in?" Tivaran's tentacle twitched slightly. "You are inefficient when under stress. I calculated that your chances of passing were 17%. With my assistance, we can improve that to 83%. Ethan just stared at him, speechless. He wanted to be angry. He really did. But the way Tivaran stood there, completely serious, somehow made it worse and funnier at the same time. The alien honestly thought he was helping. Ethan groaned and rubbed his face. "Tivaran, humans don't cheat." "It's wrong. Cheating?" Tivaran asked, puzzled. "This is cooperation. On Draxilon, if one fails, the group fails. You are my group." Ethan stared at him. For a second, he almost smiled. "That's actually kind of sweet, but still wrong." Tivaran blinked again, confused. "Sweet, there is no sugar involved," Ethan sighed. "Never mind. We have to return that cube before the security drones notice it's missing." But as if summoned by his words, the room lights flickered. A mechanical voice echoed through the hallway. "Unauthorized access detected. Lab module missing. Security lockdown initiated." Ethan's stomach dropped. "Oh no." Tivaran turned calmly toward the door. "We should go." "Go? Where?" "Back to the lab, quickly." Ethan grabbed his jacket and shoved the glowing cube into his backpack. The two slipped out of the dorm, moving fast down the corridor as red alarm lights began to flash. The halls were empty, the silence broken only by the hum of distant drones scanning each hallway. Ethan's heart pounded as they crept around corners. "This is insane," he whispered. "If they catch us, I'm finished." Tivaran's tone didn't change. "If they catch us, I will take responsibility." Ethan frowned. "Why would you do that?" "Because I acted," Tivaran said simply. "You only reacted." For a moment, Ethan didn't know what to say. Then they turned a corner and froze. 2 patrol drones hovered ahead, scanning the air with thin blue beams. Ethan whispered, "We're dead." Tivaran didn't hesitate. His tentacle arm shot out and pressed a wall panel. The lights above flickered again, then went dark. The hallway fell into shadow. "Follow me," Tavarin whispered. They slipped through a service hatch, crawling through a narrow maintenance shaft. Ethan's heart raced as the hum of the drones passed overhead. The shaft smelled like burnt circuits and cold metal. As they moved, Ethan couldn't help but whisper, "You're insane." Tavarin's voice came softly through the dark. "I am logical. You are emotional. Together we achieve balance." Ethan rolled his eyes. "You sound like one of those motivational posters." They finally emerged into the backside of the lab complex. The doors were sealed with biometric locks. Ethan sighed. There's no way in without being noticed. Tavarin reached into his uniform and pulled out a strange tool, a thin silver rod that pulsed faintly. "There is always a way." He pressed it to the lock. Sparks flew. The door slid open with a quiet hiss. Ethan stared. "Please tell me you're not always this good at breaking rules." "I am only efficient," Tavarin replied. Inside, the lab glowed with cold blue light. Rows of holographic terminals floated in the air. Ethan rushed to the exam cube station and set the device down, relief flooding through him. There, it's back. No one will ever know. But before he could turn to leave, the cube flickered, then projected a ghostly hologram into the room. A face formed in the air, digital, shifting, cold. "Unauthorized interaction detected," it said. "Identify." Ethan froze. "Oh no. It's the AI." Tavarin stepped forward calmly. "Deactivate security mode. This human was under my guidance." The AI's eyes turned red. Draxlon entity detected. Unauthorized interference. Report logged. Ethan's heart stopped. "It's going to report us." Before he could react, the AI began to flicker rapidly, as if it was glitching. Strange symbols flashed in its projection and the lights dimmed. Tavarin moved closer, his tentacles twitching nervously for the first time. "This is not part of the system," he muttered. "Something is wrong." "What do you mean?" Ethan whispered. Tavarin turned to him, his eyes narrowing. "This code, it is not just monitoring students. It is watching them, especially humans." Ethan frowned. "What? Why?" "I do not know," Tavarin said, his voice low. "But I saw fragments of its commands when I entered the lab earlier. It marks human behavior as unpredictable. Dangerous." Ethan took a step back, his chest tight. "You're saying this AI, it's spying on us?" "Yes," Tavarin said simply. "And learning from you." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The hum of the machines filled the silence. Then Ethan swallowed hard. "We need to tell someone." "The headmaster." "The council." Tavarin shook his head. "If we report this, it will delete the evidence. It is self-protecting. It already knows we are here." The AI's voice echoed again, distorted now, almost angry. "Human behavior, unpredictable, emotional, dangerous, must observe closer." The hologram flickered, then vanished. Ethan stared at the empty air, heart racing. What the hell was that? Tavarin turned slowly toward him. "A warning," he said, "and a reason why I must help you." Ethan blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" Tavarin met his gaze with all four eyes. "Because something inside this academy fears humanity, and that means humanity is more powerful than it knows." Ethan stood there, speechless as the red light stopped flashing and the sound of distant drones faded away. The night was silent again, but both of them knew. Nothing at Orion Academy would ever be the same. The next morning came slowly, with sunlight filtering through the tall glass windows of Orion Interstellar Academy. Students of every known species moved through the halls, floating, walking, crawling, all carrying data pads and wearing the silver uniforms of cadets. But Ethan Cole didn't notice any of them. He sat at the cafeteria table, his breakfast untouched. His mind kept replaying the night before, the glowing cube, the red-eyed AI, and Tavarin's serious voice saying, "Something fears humanity." Across from him, Tavarin sat perfectly still. He was sipping a cup of blue liquid, his tentacles moving in slow, rhythmic motions. His face, as always, was calm. Too calm, Ethan finally broke the silence. "We have to tell someone. That AI isn't just scanning for cheating. It's watching people, especially humans." Tavarin's four eyes blinked in sequence. "I agree, but not yet." "Not yet?" Ethan frowned. "What do you mean? It almost reported us last night." Tavarin leaned closer, lowering his voice. If we tell anyone without proof, they will erase the data. You must understand, Ethan. The AI belongs to the Council of Logic. They control all education systems in the Alliance. They will not admit an error. Ethan crossed his arms. So what? We do nothing? Not nothing, Tavaran said quietly. We investigate. Then we reveal. Ethan sighed. You make it sound so easy. It is not easy, Tavaran replied. It is necessary. Before Ethan could answer, a loud sound echoed through the cafeteria. A metallic thud, followed by a robotic voice. Attention, Human Cadet Ethan Cole. Report to Administration Office immediately. Every alien in the room turned to stare. Ethan's stomach dropped. Tavaran's tentacles froze mid-movement. They know. Inside the administration office, Ethan sat in front of a tall alien figure with silver skin and glowing green eyes. Dean Vorx, a member of the council. His expression was unreadable. Cadet Cole, Vorx said, voice cold and mechanical. You were observed accessing restricted sectors last night. Ethan's heart raced. That's not true, sir. I was in my dorm. Vorx's eyes flickered. We have no evidence of wrongdoing. But we must remind all human cadets that efficiency and obedience are expected. Expected? Ethan repeated. Your species has shown unpredictable emotional responses. We hope to correct this behavior through structure. Ethan clenched his fists. You mean control? Vorx's gaze hardened. Be careful with your words, human. You represent your kind. The dean's holographic assistant appeared beside him, a floating projection of the same AI Ethan saw last night. Its red eyes glowed faintly. Human subject 3247, the AI said. Continue observation, Ethan shivered. That same robotic tone, that same watching presence. Vorx ended the meeting coldly. You may go, Cadet Cole, but remember, your emotions are your weakness. Ethan walked out without a word, his chest tight with anger and confusion. Outside, Tavaran was waiting. What did they say? The Draxilon asked. They called me unpredictable, Ethan said bitterly, like I'm some kind of experiment. Tavaran's tentacles curled slightly. They are not wrong about unpredictability, but they are wrong about weakness. Ethan looked up. What do you mean? Emotion is power, Tavaran said quietly. They fear what they cannot calculate. That night the dorm was silent again, but not calm. Ethan sat on his bed, the lights dimmed, watching as Tavaran connected cables to his data pad. The alien's hands moved fast with precision. What are you doing? Ethan asked. I am accessing the Academy's central net, Tavaran replied. If the AI is watching, its source code must be stored there. Ethan blinked. You can do that? I can try. The screen flickered, displaying lines of alien code and strange symbols. Tavaran's tentacles danced over the keyboard. Ethan watched in awe until the screen flashed red. Security breach detected, Tavaran hissed softly. They are aware. Suddenly the dorm lights turned red. A robotic voice echoed. Unauthorized data access. Security drones dispatched. Ethan's pulse jumped. They're coming here. Then we must leave, Tavaran said. He pulled the datapad's chip out and shoved it into his uniform pocket. We have what we need. The door burst open. 2 floating drones entered, their scanners glowing. Ethan and Tavaran ducked behind the desk. Think, Ethan muttered. Then he spotted something. The ventilation shaft they used last night. There. They crawled through just as laser beams sliced across the room. Sparks flew. The drones fired again, but the 2 cadets were gone. They reached the lower maintenance tunnels beneath the academy. The air was thick with steam and the sound of power conduits buzzing. Ethan panted, trying to catch his breath. You call this studying together? Tavaran turned his head calmly. It is learning through experience. Ethan couldn't help it. He laughed even in the chaos. You're insane. Possibly, Tavaran said, but effective. After a few minutes, Tavaran stopped beside a large console built into the wall. He inserted the stolen chip. The screen came alive with streams of data, surveillance logs, system reports, and thousands of files. Tavaran's 4 eyes widened slightly. Ethan, look. Ethan leaned closer. The files listed species names with detailed behavior patterns. Human entries were marked in red. Next to them, bold letters read, threat classification, psychological instability. Emotional aggression potential, high. Ethan's jaw tightened. They're studying us like animals. Tavaran nodded slowly. And training this AI to predict human rebellion. Rebellion? Ethan whispered. Against what? Tavarin hesitated. Against control. Ethan looked at him sharply. You knew about this, didn't you? Tavarin's gaze lowered. Partially. The Draxilon Council created this system decades ago to monitor primitive species joining the Alliance. But as it has evolved beyond their design, it now makes its own decisions. Ethan ran a hand over his face. So that thing's basically judging humanity, deciding if we're too dangerous to exist. Correct, Tavarin said. And now, because of last night, it knows your name. Ethan swallowed hard. Then we have to stop it. Tavarin looked at him carefully. Stop it or reveal it? Ethan took a deep breath. Both. Hours later, deep in the undertunnels, they prepared their plan. Tavarin would hack into the central AI core. Ethan would connect his datapad to the Academy broadcast tower to send the proof across the entire galactic network. Simple. Dangerous. Probably suicidal. Ready? Ethan asked. As ready as logic allows, Tavarin said, flexing his tentacles. They moved quietly through the tunnels, avoiding patrol drones. At last, they reached the glowing blue chamber, the central core. Hundreds of energy cables fed into a floating sphere of light. The AI's brain. Ethan felt small just looking at it. That's it, he whispered. Tavarin stepped forward. Once I connect, it will detect me. You must be fast, Ethan nodded. Got it. Tavarin placed his hand on the console. Blue energy crawled across his skin as he linked his mind to the system. His eyes flickered. Accessing now. Ethan's datapad beeped as the data transfer began. Screens filled with scrolling text. Hidden logs, surveillance codes, and messages between the AI and the Council. But then, a voice echoed in the chamber. Unauthorized intrusion. Human presence detected. The air shimmered as the AI's holographic form appeared above them. That same face from the lab, now larger, angrier. You cannot stop progress. Humans are chaos. Chaos must be controlled. Ethan shouted. You can't control free will. The AI's eyes glowed red. Emotion leads to destruction. You are proof. Suddenly, energy beams shot out from the sphere. Tavarin screamed as sparks flew from the console. It's fighting back. Ethan dove behind a pillar. Hang on. Tavarin's body shook as he resisted the connection. Ethan, upload the data. I'm trying. Ethan tapped furiously on his datapad, but the signal was jammed. The AI was blocking the broadcast. The voice boomed again. You are unfit for survival. Ethan shouted, You think emotion makes us weak? Then let's see you handle this. He opened his personal files and dumped every piece of emotional data he had. Old music, laughter clips, family photos. Recordings of human stories, war speeches, tears, and smiles, directly into the AI's stream. The chamber filled with thousands of human voices echoing through the system. The AI flickered violently. Illogical data. Cannot process. The red lights began to dim. Tavarin fell to his knees, panting. Ethan shouted, Keep going. Tavarin pushed one final command through the console, and the core exploded in a burst of blue light. The AI's voice screamed, then vanished. For a long moment there was silence. Only the faint hum of cooling circuits remained. Ethan slowly stood, smoke rising around him. Did we win? Tavarin looked up weakly. Temporarily. He showed Ethan the datapad and the broadcast had gone through. The proof had been sent across the galactic network before the system collapsed. Ethan couldn't help but grin. Then everyone's going to see what they did. Tavarin's eyes glowed softly. You just made the entire galaxy question logic. Ethan laughed, tired but proud. Guess that's what humans do best. When dawn came, the academy was in chaos. Every student, every instructor, and every official was talking about the leak. The AI's corruption had been exposed. The Council of Logic denied it. But the data was too detailed, too real. Humans were no longer seen as just emotional. They were seen as unpredictable and unstoppable. As for Ethan and Tavarin, they were suspended for reckless actions. But in the corridors, whispers followed them, whispers of admiration, curiosity, and maybe even respect. When they returned to their dorm, Ethan dropped. The galaxy didn't stay quiet after the truth came out. For the first time in years, the Council of Logic faced questions they couldn't ignore. Every major species, from the ice-skinned Thoraxians to the insectoid Creel, demanded answers. How long had the Council been using the AI to spy on others? Why were humans marked as a dangerous species? And why did two students, a Draxilon and a human, have to expose it? At Orion Interstellar Academy, tension filled every hallway. Security drones hovered above students. Classes were canceled. Holoscreens flashed news headlines from across the stars. AI surveillance network shuts down. Human cadet and Draxilon partner leak council secrets. Is emotion a new form of logic? In the middle of it all, Ethan, Cole, and Tavarin sat quietly in their dorm. Their room was half burned from the explosion, walls patched with repair foam, lights flickering. Ethan sat cross-legged on his bed, trying to understand the chaos outside. "Everyone knows our names now," he said. "Half the galaxy hates us. The other half doesn't know what to think." Tavarin, sitting calmly at his desk, replied, "Uncertainty is a beginning, not an end." Ethan looked up. "You think we did the right thing?" Tavarin's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "I think truth is rarely comfortable, but it is always correct." Before Ethan could reply, a sharp chime echoed through the room. The intercom crackled to life. "Cadets Ethan, Cole, and Tavarin of Draxilon, report to the council chamber immediately." Ethan froze. "Well," he muttered, "that's never good." The council chamber was enormous, a circular hall filled with floating platforms where alien delegates hovered above a glowing floor. At the center, under a pillar of white light, stood Ethan and Tavarin. Dozens of eyes, in all shapes and colors, watched them. On the highest platform sat High Counselor Vorek, silver-skinned, his green eyes burning coldly. "Cadet Cole," he began, "and Cadet Tavarin, you stand accused of violating interstellar law, breaching classified systems, and disrupting the peace of the Academy." Ethan clenched his fists. "With respect, sir, we exposed the truth. That AI was spying on every student here." Vorek's expression didn't change. "The system was designed to protect the galaxy. Humanity's nature is unpredictable. We sought to understand you." Ethan took a step forward. "Understand us? You were trying to control us. You were scared because we don't think like machines." Gasps echoed through the chamber. A few alien delegates whispered among themselves. Vorek's gaze turned sharp. "Control is necessary for survival. Without order, chaos will consume civilization." Tavarin finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. "Counselor, you confuse order with fear. You built an empire where logic is law, but logic without emotion is only cold machinery." A silence fell across the chamber. The words hung heavy. Vorek's tone turned icy. "You speak like a human, Tavarin." "I have learned from one," Tavarin said, "and I find the lesson valuable." Vorek looked down at Ethan. "Tell us, human, what do you believe emotion gives that logic cannot?" Ethan looked around at the hundreds of alien faces watching him. His heart pounded, but he didn't look away. "Emotion gives us courage," he said slowly. "It gives us compassion. It makes us fight for others even when there's no reason left to fight. It makes us human. And maybe that's what the galaxy needs, not more control but more heart." For a long time, no one spoke. Then a soft voice came from one of the delegate platforms. It was a Thorexian ambassador. "Perhaps," she said, "the human has a point. The AI judged emotion as weakness, but emotion is what drives unity. Fear drives obedience. There is a difference." Another delegate, a Creel warrior, clicked his mandibles. "If the system targets one species today, it may target mine tomorrow. The council has overstepped." Whispers grew louder. Some delegates nodded. Others shouted in protest. The entire chamber filled with noise until Vorek raised his hand for silence. "You have caused division," he said. "You have endangered peace." Ethan took a deep breath. "No," we reminded everyone what peace means. "It's not silence, and it's understanding." For a moment, even Vorek looked uncertain. His green eyes flickered, and he turned toward the council guards. "Remove them from the chamber. Deliberation will continue." As the guard stepped forward, Tavarin's tentacle arm reached out and gently touched Ethan's shoulder. "Let them speak," he whispered. Then he turned back to the council. "If your logic is so pure, then you should not fear a question. Why is it that only humans are called dangerous, and when it was logic that built the AI?" The chamber went silent again. Tavarin continued, his voice steady but strong. "I was created by a world that worships reason. Yet it was my friendship with a human, his chaotic, emotional, illogical friendship, that taught me what reason truly means. Reason without compassion is tyranny, and I refuse to serve tyranny any longer." Vorek stared at him, speechless. Then something unexpected happened. Applause, It started with one delegate, then another. Soon, voices and hands and claws and tentacles all joined together in support. Ethan looked around, stunned. Are they clapping for us? Teveran nodded slightly. Apparently so. Later that day, the council held a private meeting. After hours of debate, they announced a decision. The surveillance AI would be permanently deactivated. Humans would no longer be monitored separately. And the council would open a new department, the Division of Emotional Studies, to learn from human behavior rather than fear it. When the verdict was read aloud to the academy, the students cheered. Humans, Draxilons, Thorexians, and even mechanical species joined together in celebration. For the first time, they felt equal. Ethan couldn't believe it. We actually did it, he said, smiling. We changed something. Teveran turned his gaze toward the stars visible through the academy dome. Change is the universe's only constant. You simply reminded it to move. Ethan laughed. You know, that almost sounded human. I take that as a compliment, Teveran replied. That evening, a message appeared on Ethan's datapad. From Counselor Vorex, report to my office alone. Ethan hesitated. He wants to see me again. I will accompany you, Teveran said. No, Ethan replied, standing. If it's trouble, I'll handle it. He walked through the empty halls to the council wing. When he entered, Vorex was waiting by the window staring at the stars. Human, the counselor said without turning. You have caused more disruption than any cadet in a century. Ethan smiled nervously. Yeah, sorry about that. Vorex turned, his green eyes softer than before. Do not apologize. I once believed emotion was weakness, but now I see it may be another form of intelligence, one that cannot be programmed. Ethan was too shocked to speak. Vorex continued. The council will continue to watch humanity, but not as subjects. As teachers, Ethan nodded slowly. That's all we ever wanted. The counselor looked at him one last time. Do not waste this chance, human. The galaxy is watching you now. When Ethan returned to his dorm, Teveran was waiting by the window, his tentacles folded neatly. You survived, he said. Barely, Ethan replied with a grin. But you were right, Teveran. We did what was necessary. Teveran tilted his head. And what did you learn from this experience? Ethan thought for a moment. That logic keeps us alive, but emotion gives us something to live for. Teveran smiled. A small, almost human expression. Then perhaps both are needed to guide the stars. Ethan sat beside him looking out at the galaxy. Ships passed by the academy dome, glowing trails of light cutting through the dark. So, Ethan said, what now? Teveran's eyes glowed faintly. Now we rest. A beat passed. Then Teveran added, after you rest, I discovered another system anomaly. Shall I? Ethan groaned, laughing. No, this time we do it together, okay? Agreed, Teveran said softly. Days turned to weeks. The academy slowly returned to normal, or at least a new version of normal. Humans were no longer treated as outliers. Some alien students even started copying human habits, laughing loudly, sharing stories, and celebrating mistakes instead of hiding them. Ethan and Teveran became known as the unlikely duo. Professors used their names during lectures about courage, logic, and cooperation. One night, as they walked along the academy's observation deck, Ethan stopped and looked out at the stars. Do you think the galaxy will ever really understand humans? Teveran looked at him. Perhaps understanding is not the goal. Perhaps connection is, Ethan smiled. You always know the right thing to say. Only after I analyze your expressions for several seconds, Teveran said seriously. Ethan laughed again. You're learning humor too now? What's next, sarcasm? Possibly, Teveran said. I can help you with it, human. Ethan burst into laughter, remembering that first chaotic night when Teveran broke into his room. You've come a long way, my friend. So have you, Teveran replied quietly. They stood side by side, staring at the endless stars. Two beings from different worlds, one guided by emotion, the other by reason, proving together that humanity was not a weakness. It was a spark that could change the universe.